You all seen the film, so you know that this momentous fight scene is coming up. And I think an interesting aspect of this that may not occur to us as we watch it nearly 50 years after it was shot is Shane was shot what they call the three-strip Technicolor process, where 3 rolls of film were going parallel through the camera and then later combined to make color. And these were huge cameras. So every shot in this scene was made with that big 3-strip Technicolor camera. There was no kind of handheld cameras as we see now in these scenes. And somebody was doing a little analysis of the scene, and they, this scene, there you are, this scene is seen through the eyes of the boy. And there are, I'm told, 19 cuts of little Joey during this fight, which is so much the idea of the film that it's seen through the eyes of the little boy.
Did you think you was going to come in here and drink with the men? Set him up, bartender.
There was a note in my father's copy of the book by Jack Schaefer, in which he wrote in the margin of the scene, the fight scene in the saloon, he said, have Shane hit Chris Calloway, the Ben Johnson character, and then just go to a complete other cut of Chris Calloway getting up from behind something with blood on his face, and he wipes it away. And it's only interesting in that in reading the book, he had such a specific idea, which became so specifically exhibited in the film.
Go get him, Chris. Tear him apart.
You're going to hear somebody say, knock him into that pig pen, Chris. That's George Stevens' voice.
This is bad. This is bad. I'm going in there.
No, you're not, Stonewall. You're going to stay right here.
This ain't our fight. If we get mixed up in it, we'll all get run out of this country.
Go on. Go get him, Chris.
That's the trouble with this country. There ain't a marshal within a 100-mile ride.
Get out, Brent, Chris.
Climb under, Chris.
Ivan, that's a nice little piece of business to get that marshal, not a marshal with a 100-mile ride while you're concentrating on something else. So It doesn't sound like a big plot point.
Get him.
Now,
Land that right, Chris.
knock him into that pig pen, Chris.
George Stevens used to enjoy talking during the scenes.
You're supposed to see the good guy coming through in Ben Johnson here, because he's going to be a good guy in the end.
Stop this, man.
Go on, get back out.
Here, man, here. Stop this.
This obviously this fight was carefully choreographed, and Alan Ladd was probably about 5'7", and Ben Johnson about 6'3", and it was skillful the way it was managed, so that you didn't notice this disparity. That's Douglas Spencer with the Swedish accent, who was also a regular in George Stevens movies. He played Bearbait, the man who ran the boats at Loon Lake in A Place in the Sun. Played Mr. Crawler in The Diary of Anne Frank.
Yeah, let's go now.
Ivan, we haven't talked about A.B. Guthrie Jr., the screenwriter.
Very reflective, very sensitive man, and he'd written the Big Sky and one other.
And The Way West.
And The Way West, yes.
Which coincidentally was shooting in the next valley, remember, with Kirk Douglas, while we were shooting Shane in the North Valley?
And Guthrie wasn't a screenwriter. Indeed, when he came onto the production, he asked to see what a screenplay looked like. he was handed a copy of some screenplay to study it, and he brought it back on the Monday morning. He'd already written 15 pages of the script of Shane, and I think George Stevens or somebody said to him, "Jesus, you better not tell the Writers Guild, if you've already joined it, that you came in on the very first day with 15 pages of screenplay already written." He was a wonderful guy, Guthrie.
He's a professor at the University of Kentucky.
He's dead now.
And Dad had read his novels. There's this kind of laconic speech in Western films, and he said that Bud Guthrie wrote dialogue in his novels of Westerners who were just as voluble as American GIs, and he thought that Guthrie could bring some of that kind of talk to the film.
And he left about 3/4 of the way through. He left before we left the Wyoming location.
Quit butting in.
It was left to Jack Shaw and myself to touch up whatever else was needed. Rather awful to think that practically everybody connected with that film is dead. Amazing there's anybody left, really, except for you, who were a youngster.
Thank you, Ivan. I can remember the first preview of this, Ivan, the tension of Alan Ladd being alone fighting these guys, and we keep hoping that somebody's going to come in to help. And you'll see how Van Heflin takes more time than we'd like figuring out what's going on and coming to the rescue.